Yeah, good morning and welcome back to the channel. I'm here today in Glanworth, Ontario with Tom Bradish, and we're going to kind of go through his shed and show you some of the antique tractors that he has. And we're kind of doing this kind of as a promotion for the tractor parade that's coming on June 17th. And what Tom has got here in this barn is a lot of the two-cylinder John Deeres. And we're just going to go down the line, and Tom's going to say a few words about each one and tell us a story.
I've got 14 420s, of which a couple of them up in the other shed and one in another place. And but every one of them is different. John Deere was pretty good to accommodate customers for whatever they want. This is a little natural gas or propane tractor that came out of South Texas. A friend of mine found it right on that winters in Texas, and he found it right on the Rio Grande River. It was really in rough shape, but they're quite rare up here. So he called me and said the old guy I think would sell it, but two things: he doesn't want it parted out and he doesn't want it scrapped. And I said to him, we don't scrap anything. We don't part anything out. We get them all running and we paint everything we have. We will repaint. This time of year, we haven't got the place cleaned up too good. I got a grandson that would like to clean the barn up, and I get him clean up the tractors as well. So,
Big job to keep these dusted.
yeah.
Big job.
Yeah, and tires. It's we go over the tires. We have kind of come up with a couple of ideas. As I say, that came out of, this one came out of, this tractor actually originated in Colorado. The guy had a tremendous collection and moved them all to Iowa and sold them. A friend of mine and I bought 3 or 4 of them. This one kind of, he gets one of the last ones.
How are you, Doug?
I'm doing good.
And we got Doug Beatty dropped in to say hi.
I'll tell you,
Got the cows milked?
it's not very often that I get to spend time with a couple of,
Old
couple
guys
that have this much money. All right, Tommy.
I think you'd be better to rephrase that.
Oh, that
Could it
much.
be that they should use the word had.
Oh,
It's down here.
There you
It's in
go.
here.
So you want to wander through.
Keep going. This is fun.
This one came out of Indiana. It's all, I'm sure they planted with it. It's got the extra hydraulics on it. This one came out of Louisiana. It's a high crop. Most likely was used in the sugarcane fields. This one came out of Ohio. But the blade, they had, John Deere had a factory in Welland. The blade was made in Welland. As I mentioned earlier, they're all 420s, but they're all a little different configuration. This came out of New York. A lot of them used in the bush. This is one of the last 420s built. 420 standard. I don't know whether it has slope steering wheel, 5-speed transmission. I don't know whether it has standard power steering or not. This is one of the first 420s that was ever built. It's one of the first, that's one of the last. You remember this one?
I do, yeah. They were a pretty popular tractor in their day.
Yeah. This tractor actually belonged to a very good friend of Doug's and mine. And I had a chance to pick it up. That was actually killed in a farming accident. And about 10 years after that, I had a chance to buy it. We fixed it all up. This is a little low boy that would have been used in a building, something, I don't know why.
it's amazing how many different configurations there is of one series of tractors.
This one came out of the Paris area and belonged to municipality. Some of the municipalities had most likely cut grass along the sides of the road, and they were a little more visible.
It wouldn't work after 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's right.
A little Ford Jubilee, built in 1953. This is a Ford Ferguson, and it's, I never remember whether it's 9N or 2N. It's down. This is 9N. 9N. I was at this Massey, another Massey. I was at the antique show in Paisley, in the Massey. They were featuring Massey's, in the Massey Club. This tractor was there, wasn't fixed up. It didn't have new tires on it. It wasn't a bad old tractor, ran good. Needed going over. So you had to bid, put a price on. So I put a price on. They had a couple of prices written down on the blackboard as to what people had bid. If anybody had ever bid on it, I bid, I think, $600 on it, just to help them out. Anyway, that was on Saturday. Sunday afternoon, I got a call, and it said, "You now are the proud owner of the Massey 30." So I had a friend of mine come up there, picked that up, took it home, and he went completely over it. Get into a few more, it's an international. It actually belonged to a friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
figured it was.
This tractor, I've known of this tractor since it was brand new, and it's I think it's a 41. It's got one of the George White stickers on it. You can look down in the
Oh, yeah.
George White, where the sales outfit for John Deere tractors years ago. I remember where that tractor was when it was brand new. A guy by the name of Donald N. James from Delaware bought that tractor new and put in his brick and tile yard to run the brick making machine and the tile making machine. And then that tractor has done very little field work. They're the original tires, and he sold it to a farmer that only used it a couple of years. And then a collector bought it that passed away and had a sale. He never worked it, and I bought it from the collectors.
It's electric start.
Yeah, electric start. This is one of the old original L's that forget even where I think I got that at a sale in the States. This is kind of an oddball. There were very few of them made. There was one of the plowing matches, we had a bunch of old guys put that thing all together, and he gathered it up out of junk, parts, and they really didn't even know what it was. So I had a 40, 50, 60, 70, and then 80. So it's funny. So I put that 30 sticker on it, and I've only had about 2 guys ever look at it that said, I never heard tell of one.
They never made a 30. But you got one.
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting thing. I had a friend, we spent a lot of time on the Perry Sound area, and I had a good friend up there that was, him and his dad were Alice Chalmers dealers. And to get back into our old hunt camp, fishing camp, there's a log road we used, but it was always in terrible shape. So he was always saying to me, if you can find one of those, they call them a speed patrol. I'd love to have one of those, but I don't want a hydraulic one, because I can't fix hydraulic stuff back in the bush. I want one of the big wheels that'll lift and lower the blade. So he said, if you ever see one at a sale, buy it for me. So I bought it. And we got it home, and I called him and I said, I got a really good old Speed Patrol. So he said, oh God, that's too bad. He said, I just sold my cottage. I don't need it. So I didn't mind because I had some other. Can you step over there? Yeah, I gathered stuff from all over the place. This little 40 came out of Connecticut. I had the rest of them, and I wanted a 40, but I wanted the high one. And there's a 40, I think it's a V, a 40 vegetable, which are really rare. This was advertised in a magazine, but the guy that was selling it didn't own it, and selling it for somebody else. And I thought it was a V, but it's yeah, I forget what they call it. But it was a 40, and that's what I wanted it. This is a little 50. This was a good little tractor that I got from one of the neighbors. And this tractor happened to have, at the time, it had every option that you could get on it. It's got power steering, it's got hydraulics, got a tachometer, live power takeoff, live hydraulics fenders. The only thing it didn't have that you could have ordered was a cigarette lighter. Unfortunately, I never smoked.
Yeah, if you don't smoke, you don't need it.
This is a 60. We actually bought this tractor to farm with years ago. We had a couple of Fords, and we had a John Deere B. And my dad bought this tractor brand new in 1956. And we used this for a big tractor, and we had an old B that two Fords. And we needed something with just a little bit more power, so neighbor had bought this, but it was too big for what he wanted, and so I bought it, and we farmed with it quite a bit until it got retired to the barn here. This, as I say, we use that for our big tractor. Then we traded, and we actually traded it off on an Oliver, but it was always in the community, and I had a chance to buy it back, so I bought it back. It's an 80, which was the biggest of the two cylinders. An 80, 820, and 830, basically the same. This one came out of Saskatchewan.
Be lots of them out there.
Yeah, lots of them. Couple of plows. It's a two-way plow. Quite a few of them used in Pennsylvania where they contour plow. They contour plow around the hills, so they plow the whole thing in the same direction.
It's kind of a forerunner of the rollover plow.
Yeah, forerunner of the rollover plow.
I've never seen one of those before.
Well, they got one here, Doug.
Yeah, that's right.
This is a GP Model A. They built a lot of A's. First ones they called them GPs, but this one I got this one out of Indiana. I got a little GP-B. Got that from an old guy in Ohio. Old R.
Now we're in the letter series.
Yeah, this was the biggest. This was a forerunner to the 80. And it was a little smaller than an 80, and had a little trouble with the motor. They have pup motors on them, and they're started with a little gasoline engine. There's I think it's a 6-volt starter on the little gas engine. Ours were a little light, had a couple of problems. the pup was hardly big enough, a 2-cylinder pup. So when they built the 80s, they went to a 4-cylinder pup. That one's got a 4-cylinder that starts the big 2-cylinder engine. And the engines, ours only had two main bearings, one on each end of the crankshaft. And some of the crankshafts would bend, so they beefed the 80s up. And it's got 3 main bearings, one on each end and one in the middle. And they were a good old tractor. They just run. I got these together. They were advertised in a John Deere magazine. They came out of Kansas. An old guy was downsizing. He had 4 tractors and he wanted to keep 2. He kept a B and an M. And he said, no, they're really good. He said, they're really good shape. I've had them since they were new, and just, I want to downsize. Another thing John Deere did was a G and a 70 basically are the same. They kept modernizing them or changing them somewhat, but they're basically the same tractor. This is the very first one. We had a B that my dad bought new in '51, but this was the first one I bought when I started collecting them, and it belonged to a neighbor of ours. And here again, it was sitting out in the orchard, and it was in pretty rough shape. It was rebuildable, so we went at it, fixed it up. This was the roughest one we ever had. That's a GP. So, this one is, it's got the, it's a 47, I think.
My A is a 47.
Yeah, this is a 47. The old one in the corner, the D is a 41. And this little H had, I don't know what they did with it. Came out of the central sands of Wisconsin, which is an area similar to our Bradford Marsh. This little tractor came out of the Bradford Marsh and had some contraction under it that the row crofter did something. This one's set up for 20-inch rows. I don't know what they grew in 20-inch rows.
It come with duals?
Yeah, I got it with duals. And it had a bunch of hydraulic, well, it wasn't hydraulic, but it had 2 of those levers on it, one on each side. And I think they could have done 1, 2, or about 6 rows of whatever it was. I don't know whether you're ever in the Central Sands area.
No.
Drive through, wonder what's growing. But anyway, so.
Well, that's good. This is quite a tour.
Yeah. I've been playing around at this for, 40 years anyway. I was looking after, we have 3 kids and they were just little rascals, and one weekend my wife was away and I had to look after the kids, and the local antique farm thing was on, so I took them to the breakfast, and I got visiting with some of the old guys, and I thought, that kind of looks like fun. I had some old tractors, so started with a few, and it kind of grew from there.
It's definitely grew.
Yeah.